Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to part 6 now of the bathroom edition here in the shop. I literally just got done using the Froth Pack system doing the spray foam here in the bathroom. I'll give you guys a little sneak peek. Got it all sealed up, all the roof sealed up. I also got the plumbing vent stack through the roof, and I got the vent for the bathroom fan put in through the soffit. So stick around and I'll show you how it all went. This is where we want the the vent stack to come through. So I got to drill. I'm drilling like a 3 1/4 inch hole, I believe, so I can get a 2-inch PVC up through here. You got to have a screw every inch around this flange. Plus you got to put sealant underneath it. So what I found in the past with these is when you're screwing them in, the screw wants to lift up the metal as it's drilling through it, and it moves it around and it bends this flange up a lot. I mean, the flange is pretty flexible. It's made to go over ribs and bumps and whatnot. But when you pre-drill them, then the screw is just biting into the roof and not trying to drill through this and lift this up at the same time. So it just makes it a little easier to install, but they do take a lot of screws. I don't know if you guys can see all the holes from there, but if I had to guess, there's probably 20 screws that go into that flange. So I'm just gonna use a hole saw. I already laid out downstairs where I want this. We're in between rafters. We're not gonna hit nothing. We'll just see what happens here. Okay. It's never a good feeling when you gotta go and drill a 3-inch hole in your brand new roof. On the back of this flange here, we gotta put a nice bead of sealant. I'm using, if you've been watching the other videos, the same stuff I've been using on all the joints and things here. It's called Through the Roof by Sashco. It works really well. It's clear. It's designed for this exact application. I've always had good luck with it, so let's hope that continues and we don't have any future leaks. So you want a nice even bead that goes across all the holes, kind of right in the center. You don't want a crazy amount, because if you get too much with it, it'll just ooze out everywhere once you start screwing it down. I mean, more than likely it's going to anyways. And these are one of those things that, I mean, you can make them look as good as you can, but it's more important that they're sealed up than how they look. But we'll try to make it look as neat as we can and be sealed up good. So we're gonna use the same rubber washer screws that you use on all the rest of the metal around here. And I'm gonna look through here and try to just center this the best I can. Right there looks good. Then we'll start putting in the screws. You don't want to just start on one side and go in a circle. You want to kind of jump around, kind of like when you're torquing down bolts on a wheel or something like that. You kind of work your way in a cross pattern. We don't have to crank them all the way down at the first go around either. We can kind of come back and snug them up as we go. The main thing is we want it to be able to, this flange is flexible. We want it to kind of contour over. I mean, these are pretty short ribs, but there's still a bump there. But you want it to bend over top of that stuff. You see how it was lifting up there? That's how every time, if you don't pre-drill them, every screw would do that, and it makes it a little tough. So one thing you can do as you're screwing them, as soon as it grabs, you can back the screw out and then go back in again, and then it won't lift up on the flange. extra precaution along the top lip here. I'm just gonna make sure there's a continuous bead, just so nothing can work its way under that flange, especially where these little ribs are. Give you guys a little closer look here. So you can see we got our screws all the way around. Got a nice bead of sealant. Like I was saying, if you wet your finger, you can just tap this stuff down into place. If you go and try to drag your finger on it, like smear it, you'll tear into it. It kind of forms a skin as you touch it, and you can kind of mold it how you want and smooth it out. I think it looks pretty good. It's about as good as a roof flange for a metal roof is going to look. So we're going to be prepping for the exhaust fan here in the bathroom. I got a Panasonic, I think it's 115 CFM exhaust fan for the bathroom here. And instead of going through the roof, since we don't have vented soffits or anything, I'm actually going to drill out through those OSB blocks we put in between the rafters. I'm just going to go ahead and drill a 6-inch hole so we can fit this through. Then we'll go outside, drill a 4-inch hole. We'll connect the duct to here, get this mounted, and then we'll just have the ductwork laying here, and I'll be able to spray foam everything around it. And we're going to see if the little 12-volt drill can handle a 6-inch hole saw. My 18-volt drill's up in the garage. I don't feel like walking up there. Well, I struggled a little bit, but I mean, it's a pretty big bit for a compact 12-volt drill. So out here we need a 4-inch hole that we're going to put up through the metal soffit here. And this is steel soffit, so it's pretty hard compared to like the aluminum soffit stuff. And what we're going to use, if you guys never seen these before, these are hole cutters, and they're powered by your drill, and there's a special drill bit that can cut sideways in it. So you drill your center point with that, then you go and put your center point in there, and you actually spin this in a circle, and it'll cut out your circle. So these are used in like the HVAC industry for cutting out ductwork, for cutting in 6-inch or 8-inch round supplies into like the trunk line. But they work really good on this type of stuff. So you definitely want safety glasses, because the chips that this thing throws, they're pretty hot and pretty gnarly chunks of metal. But basically just drill your center point, and this pin's adjustable here, and it's got your inch layout on here. So I got it set to like 4 1/4, and this opening's pretty much 4. So it'll give us a little bit of wiggle room. So you just drill your center point. Once you have your center point, then you put the pin in there. And you just kind of rotate it. That works well. I mean, even though I had to fight it a little bit just because of these deep grooves that are in this soffit material, but even in the sidewall tin, or if you have a ceiling you're putting can lights in, these things work awesome for that. If you try to do that with a hole saw, it would grab and tear up, and it'd be a mess. You can do it, but this is much easier. So this is insulated ductwork, which anytime you are venting a bath fan, or a kitchen vent or anything, you should use insulated ductwork, because there's moisture in there, and if it gets cold before it has time to get out of the building, it will start condensing in that pipe, and if that happens, you'll end up getting drips coming back down from your vent fan. So if it's insulated, the moisture and steam will stay warm enough in the pipe to get actually out of the vent all the way out before it has time to condensate and end up dripping back down the pipe into the fan that it's coming from. I feel it's a pretty clean looking way to exhaust it. All right, we're getting ready to get the spray foam up in the ceiling in there. So we're gonna be using these Froth Packs. If you guys aren't familiar with them, basically it's a two-part closed cell foam, the same stuff like the professionals use when they spray, like when I had my roof done here. The only difference is it comes in these small tanks. You got part A and part B. They mix at the tip of the gun. You got tips that mix the two components right at the tip of the nozzle there. Within about 30 seconds, it's dry. It instantly rises, comes out of liquid, rises to a foam, and you can touch it within 30 seconds or so and it's firm. It's not like the stuff that comes out of a spray foam can or gun. This stuff is actually a two-component mixture. So it's chemical reaction between the two. They create kind of a heat and set each other off, and it hardens up super quick. So the good thing is it is a closed cell, so it's not going to absorb moisture. It's going to act as an air barrier and vapor barrier as well. In order for that to be the case, you need at least 2 inches thick of that. And what we're going to do here on the bottom side of the roof deck is kind of what they call a flash and bat. So I'm going to try to at least get 2 inches at a minimum. If I can get a little bit more, I will. And then after that, we'll cover the foam with unfaced like R19 on top of that. So basically every inch of this thick gives you about an R7, and then we'll put R19 on top of that. But you don't want to do a faced insulation on top of the foam, because now you got two vapor barriers and you're trapping. You can trap moisture between the two of them. You just want to have open face if you're going to end up doing that. So this is a kit that I had already used at one point not too long ago, and it kind of all just hardened up in the tip of the gun here. I'm sure I could get this free and get a new tip on here and probably be fine. I did shut the tanks off when I was done with it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the new one first. When that one runs out, I'm actually going to take the hoses off of this one, put them on this tank, because I know these lines will be clear and not clogged up or nothing, and we'll be able to finish spraying the rest of that one. So it's pretty straightforward. Temperature is a big thing. You can't do this when it's freezing cold. If you do, the yield won't be as much, it won't expand as much. And if you really have to do it, you just got to make sure the tanks are warm before you start spraying. So you can, heat them up in the house, or I even done it one time where I had a heating pad like you would use on your back. You plug in. I wrapped that around there, put a little blanket around it, plugged it in, got them warm. There is a little temperature gauge on the side of them that indicates the temperature that they're at. And right now they're at it says 75 or so, which is about what it is in here. And that's about perfect. You want to be 75, 80 degrees is where you want to be with them. You do want to make sure you have a respirator, not just a dust mask. Definitely want gloves. I went and got a long sleeve shirt on. I'll pull that down. I'll put a hat on, safety glasses, and just go for it. So I'm going to try to film it the best I can. I don't want to get the camera and everything covered in foam, because it does, there's some stuff that comes down and does make a little bit of a mess, but it's not terrible. One thing you do got to do, it comes with a little bit of like Vaseline, and you got to put it all in the body of the gun here where the tip goes in and out. So when you change out these tips, they don't end up getting stuck in there. So you just want to kind of coat all that, coat the little lever that opens and closes to hold the tips in. And you do have like a fan style tip, and then you have a cone style for filling voids or doing, around the bond or whatever you want to do to fill a narrower gap. And these would be like your stud cavities or rafter cavities you're filling. One other thing I did, and from experience, the hoses don't come attached together. They hook to the tanks at that end, they hook to the gun here, and they're separate the whole way down, kind of like you see on this one. So I found in the past that if you just take some tape and join them together, you're less likely to get tangled up, because they do you'll be tripping over them and making a mess. The other thing you got to know is once you start, you got to just keep going, because if you stop for more than 30, 45 seconds, maybe a minute if you're lucky, the foam as it's mixing in the tip here will actually dry, and then you got to take the tip off and get a new one. Luckily they give you, maybe a half dozen tips of each type, So you can trade them out. If you got to take a break, you can just leave it on there, trade one out, or put a new one on. But once it dries, they're garbage. You can't clean them out or nothing. Other than that, I guess I'll get kind of suited up here. I usually have like a Tyvek suit I was gonna wear. I don't have one right now though. I thought I had one here, but I don't. So we'll just get kind of staged up. I'll set the camera up. I'll kind of try to show you what I'm doing before you get going. You do have to, when you first hook up to the gun, you open them up and you got to spray it without the tip on for maybe 5 seconds or so, just until you see both part A and B coming out the hoses here equally. And once it does, you put the tip in, you can go to town. And you'll notice when you do use these, when you first start going, when you first use a tank, I mean, it's coming out quick, a lot of pressure, and it just slowly decreases. But even though the pressure drops, there's still usually quite a bit of foam in the things. It's just, you got to take your time and go a little bit slower. But you'll kind of notice when you first start, you're kind of going quick, and a lot more volume's coming out at a time. And then as you use it, it kind of settles down. Other than that, so this is, if you notice, they look a little different. This is one I just bought, and this is one I bought maybe 3-4 months ago. And I think what it is now, all of them come as a Class A fire rated insulation. So if it was going to be exposed, like I have here in my shop, just the roof, the attic is open and the bottom of the roof is sprayed. The one I have up there is a Class A. It's a fire rated insulation or foam, whereas I don't think this one is. But being that won't be exposed, it's gonna have a drywall ceiling, it doesn't need to be. So, I mean, that's just how they come now. And these are 200 board feet packs. They do make 600 board feet ones. I think they make 100 footers. And basically what that means, 200 board feet means it will cover 200 square feet of area at 1 inch thick. So my ceiling in there, or the roof, is about 85 square feet. So this should be able to get that whole roof area with at least 2 inches, maybe a little more. And this one's probably half empty, so I should be able to get another, 75 to 100 square feet out of this one at another inch. So if I can get 2.5 inches up there, I'll be happy. That'll seal it up. And then I got a few other little corners and voids where I might do some extra if I have some left. If not, we'll just have to go from there. So I guess let's get going and see how this goes. So I'll show you, you gotta do a little prep ahead of time. You definitely wanna cover anything you don't want to get foam on it. I mean, this was an unfinished floor, so I just threw down some extra Tyvek I had, but even with just the plywood, it does leave these little tiny specks everywhere of foam. So the less cleaning you wanna do, just cover it up. Like the window, and I just draped a piece over that so that doesn't get no foam on it. I went around and made sure I went and put all my hurricane ties on all my rafters, because once that all gets foamed in, it would have been a pain afterwards. My vent stack, I taped the end of it off. That way I can just peel that tape and I'll be able to glue a fitting on there without having to scrape foam or sand the foam off of there. But for the most part, this is a unfinished space, so I don't got to get too crazy. But the floor and going in and out of the shop, the cement floor here, I want to make sure that was all covered up, so that way I'm not making a mess on my concrete. So we'll go ahead and turn the tanks on. Kind of turn them on slow. And you'll see once it starts flowing, one of these is like a much darker amber yellow color. I don't know if you can see it going through the tube there. The other one is almost clear. And when they mix, they make your typical spray foam color, kind of cream yellow color. So you want to make sure they're all the way open, both of them. Make sure your tanks are in a position so you don't keep moving them around. When you buy the smaller packs, like the 200, it does come with the gun and hoses. When you buy the 600 board feet kits, they don't come with the hose or the gun, and you gotta buy that separately. And when you buy them separately, you get like a 15-foot hose kit. This, I think, comes with like a 9 or 10 foot, so you just gotta kind of move the tanks around a little bit more with you. We'll go ahead and we'll spray this until they're both coming out pretty even. Do some air first. Okay. Should be good. And click the tip in. This is the fan tip. It's got like a little slot cut in it. You stick these in there. It clicks down. And that's basically it. So now we should be ready to go. Probably put my mask on. And it is better to try to do it in thinner layers. You can't just go and try to put 3-4 inches thick at one time. Kind of just want to go like an inch at a time. I had to guess. I used about 3/4 of it so far. So I think between the two of these, we should have enough to get at least 2-3 inches up there. So it just gets so hot so quick. When the guys did my barn here, all I had was my ceiling done. I insulated my own walls. I just had the roof deck done, and it was like, I don't know, probably 90 degrees outside to begin with. And they were in here spraying, and it was probably 120 inside here, if not hotter. Once that foam started kicking, I felt bad for them guys. They're all suited up. They were dying. But that's what they do, I guess. I don't know. Doesn't sound much fun to me. But it does do a good job. It's not very cost effective to do large areas this way, but for something this size, it would cost you way more to have someone come out and actually spray it. By the time, you know, most guys have a couple $1,000 minimum to even just bring their truck out, and they probably wouldn't even want to do this job unless they were getting paid a minimum. So, you know, I think these kits were like, I don't know, $369 or something like that at Menards. So they're not terrible. And they do a good job. Like I said, it's great for small areas, touching up. The reason I even had that kit was I was installing a jacuzzi tub, or a soaking tub for someone in their bathroom, and we set the tub, and then we insulated the backside of all the tub so that the tub itself was insulated, and it just makes it solid as can be. Like, it feels like the tub is like solid concrete when you're done. It's like not hollow at all, and then the water stays hot, you know, for hours that way. But all right, I guess I'll swap out tip again and we'll get spraying again. Well, that kit's empty. It actually went maybe a little further than I thought it would have. I can get a little piece of wire or something and poke and check the depth of the foam, which I'll do in a minute. I'm gonna let that air out before I go back in there. I got some foam on my face. Got foam all over my shirt, gloves. This is why you have to, gotta cover yourself up. I did go around the room and just kind of hit the bottom plate where it meets the wall, just to kind of seal up everything, keep bugs and things from crawling through. And I got the gable end coated pretty well. There's probably close to 3 inches on that. And then as I was filling this back stud cavity here, you can see how it's getting kind of oozy looking. That's because one of the components was running lower than the other one, and that's where it pretty much ran out. And if it's not equal parts, it won't mix right and it won't dry, so it just turned into a sloppy mess. So as soon as it starts doing that, you got to stop. Can't keep spraying it, or else you'll just have a slimy mess on your hands. I'm trying to see the foam on my face. So I did fill. This was a kind of a void behind this stud. This stud's here for where the shower door will end up. But I did completely fill behind there now, so you can see how it all oozed out. I squirted it back inside there. And I mean, I could use maybe a little bit more right there, but for the most part, that's solid filled back in there. So I think we're doing pretty good. We definitely sealed up around the pipe really well. So that's not going to go anywhere. That's good and tight up in there. So I'm going to wait a minute. I'll hook up the other tanks, the used tanks that I have to that gun, and we'll just run that one out, get as far as we can. I'll show you how it looks. That's it. Both empty. One other thing I forgot to mention to you guys is the benefits of the strength that closed cell foam can add. I mean, it's not meant to be a structural portion of your house, but it does add a ton of rigidity to a home and really helps just lock everything together. I know when I did the bottom of the roof deck here in the shop, you know, that's just sprayed directly on the bottom of the steel of the roof. And when you walked on that roof before that was sprayed, you know, the metal had deflection in it, and, you know, it felt like any other metal roof that's over purlings up there. But once it was sprayed, it felt as if it was a full roof deck with plywood underneath it. I mean, it's as stiff as can be. So it's a huge benefit. You can't say the same for open cell foam. That's like very soft and almost spongy, crumbly feeling to it, where this stuff, I mean, you knock on it, it almost feels like a dense wood. So it does really add a lot of strength. If you guys aren't familiar with open cell foam, personally, I would never recommend putting it to anything that touches the exterior. So nothing exterior walls or the bottom of the roof deck. It has too much of a chance to absorb moisture, whereas the closed cell foam can't absorb the moisture, and you're not going to have that wicking action where your foam is going to get saturated. If you wanted to use it for interior walls or spray the back side of your ceiling instead of doing the underside of your roof, it does have a use for that, but I would never recommend anybody putting open cell foam on an exterior wall. Just wanted to give you guys a little bit of information between the two, in case you guys didn't know. Well guys, I think that went pretty well. I will say it is difficult to film and do spray foam at the same time. There's you don't have a ton of time with this stuff, and sorry if it wasn't the greatest footage. I guess I'll see how it turns out once I get it uploaded, but I tried. But I think all in all, I went around and poked it with my awl in a couple spots before I put that last coat on. And for the most part, there was a little over 2 inches everywhere before I hooked up that last set of tanks, that used set of tanks that I had. So I'm guessing I got at least another 3/4 to an inch on top of that. So I think I'm right about 3 inches on the whole roof. And then the gable wall, I got close to 3 inches on that as well. And then I did just go around the room and just hit all the sill plates. I went in the back corner and sprayed back there. I still got to get nailers in here for the drywall. But I just went around and kind of sealed anything that would have been difficult to insulate with normal fiberglass. I did fill in completely over the header there, so that's solid. And all around my vent pipe that's going to go out, that's all nice and sealed up really good. I sealed the rafters to the existing wall under the bottom. Down here, back behind the wall here. So she's sealed up pretty good. So if you guys haven't ever used the Froth Packs, I recommend them. They're great. I think they definitely have a purpose. I wouldn't go and try to do an entire house with them or your entire barn or anything like that, but small rooms and, you know, additions and things like that, they're perfect for. They are messy. I am glad I covered up the floor, so at least all that's clean. You can probably tell I went and changed my shirt. That shirt I just threw in the garbage because it was completely covered in chunks of foam. And pretty much all my stuff has a nice little coating of foam specks all over it. My lights and everything, and cameras held up all right. I think I avoided them for the most part. But I do think that's going to be it for this video. I think we only covered a couple topics in this one, but I think that was good. I'm glad I was able to get the insulation done up on the roof. And now, before I insulate the walls or add the second layer up top, I am going to go through and get all the rough electrical and plumbing in here before I go any farther with insulation. But I did want to insulate the roof first because that's above everything, and it's just easier to, you know, I don't want to have my exhaust fan in here yet or wires running across, because anything you have there is going to accumulate the foam as you're spraying. It's going to turn into big globs and make a mess. So thanks for watching, guys, and stick around for the next one coming up. I appreciate it. and hit subscribe if you could, and hit the like button. Leave a comment if you got any questions, or if you got any better ideas, let me know. Thanks.